Okay, I have on the bench out of a 2011 Lincoln MKZ what's called a power transfer unit, or PTU. It's basically a mini transfer case, and inside this is pretty much just bearings and gears. You can't select any ranges like you would with your traditional transfer case, you know, like for low or for high. This is all-wheel drive, and when the car is rolling, the gears are spinning. And this little part here, this little power transfer unit, has a very high failure rate. And it has a very high failure rate for a couple of reasons. I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, this thing only holds about a half a quart of fluid. All right, it takes the 75-140 gear oil, and I'm going to show you actually on Shopkey. I have it up with this make and model car, and you can see it shows fluid capacity, and it's maybe a half a quart. So number one, it really doesn't have much fluid in it. Number two, this is surrounded, it's not cooled either, and it's surrounded by heat, by the exhaust system, the cat, the transmission, the engine, and it's surrounded by heat, and that's going to pretty much bake the fluid in there as well. Okay, these can also leak. All right, a common leak, this is the right side where the right axle goes, and I've seen this leaking either the gear oil or the transmission fluid. So we're going to talk about that because there's seals. You can buy a seal kit from Ford because I've done this before, and this is basically just a plastic protector. So we're gonna talk about that. Okay, and also one of the last reasons, which I think put the icing on the cake for this one, and we're gonna split it apart. I actually had to take it apart to show the customer what's going on and why I think it happened. So I just got 4 bolts back in it, and we're gonna pull it apart. So he comes to me, and he was recommended by somebody, and he says, you know, I got this noise in my car. Can you please drive it and let me know what's going on? So I drive it, and I'm telling you, this freaking noise was horrendous. And I knew right away, power transfer unit. I said, it is no good. So we're driving it, and I was explaining it to him that, you know, doesn't hold much fluid, it's got a lot of heat around it, it's not a cooled unit, and incidentally, they are cooling them now. I don't know how that's working out, but I've been doing some research on this stuff, and it is being cooled. I think there's either lines on it or a cooler on it or something like that, but I think they are being cooled because of such a high failure rate. I mean, these things are dropping like flies, and I gotta tell you, when we first started getting these, I was getting them from Ford. They stocked them, and number one, the Ford stock said, you know, it's flying off the shelf. So it's so common now that my transmission parts supplier carries these brand new Ford, and the last probably 6 or 7 of them I've gotten from them. And you just basically take it out of the box, right in the car. It's all full of fluid and everything. Yeah, I didn't have this car was picked up the other day, so I couldn't even film it because the guy was in a hurry for the car, so we just kind of had to get it done, and he had to pick it up. Okay, so I'm driving this car, horrendous noise, and you know, I'm just talking to him about it, you know, what happens, and then I asked him, I said, let me ask you something, did you do anything before this noise started with your tires? And he said, as a matter of fact, I did. About 2 weeks ago, I had 2 new tires put on the front. I said, what did you do with the back? He said, nothing. I just had 2 new tires put on the front. I said, okay, so when we get back to the shop, I measured the circumference of the tires. I have this tool, which you might have seen before, called the stagger gauge, all right? And you can open it up, and you measure, you go around the tires, and then you squeeze it right in the center, and then you take the reading from here. And pretty much to me, anything more than like a ½ inch out is no good. All right, from a half closer is acceptable. A half out is no good. So I'm measuring the 2 new front tires, I'm measuring the back tires, and they were 1 inch out, which is totally no good. So I think that kind of put the icing on the cake for this power transfer unit with not the wrong tires, but, well, he had the same tires put on, but the fact that he didn't do all 4 of them. You know, it may have lasted a little longer if he would have done all 4, I'm sure. These things, like I said, have a very high failure rate, so it could have been on its way out, but I think the wrong tire size definitely finished it off. So the tires were 1 inch out, and I showed him that, I explained that to him, and then when we got this on the bench, I opened it up and I showed him. So we put the new one in, and you know, bottom line was, I says, you have to take this directly to where you got these tires and have 2 back tires put on, and then bring the car back to me, let me measure everything, and then your warranty, because Transtar warranties these to me for a year, I says, then your warranty will be in effect. Until then, you know, I can't do it. So very nice people, they picked it up, they went straight to the tire place. Then he even called me and says, look, they don't have the tires, they got to order them to be in tomorrow. I said, all right, just, you know, really don't drive the car, just go there. And then afterwards, he even faxed me the invoice he had them put on, and it was the right date. He brought it back, we measured, everything was good, so he's all good to go. So I always say, tire size is very important, okay? That's with 4-wheel drive, and that's especially with all-wheel drive, all right? What I recommend to people with all-wheel drive cars, and these power transfer units are not only used on Lincolns, they're used on the Ford Edge, the Ford Escape. Anything Ford that's all-wheel drive is gonna have this. And there's more than one type of model. You know, I order this through the VIN number. So there's a few different ones of these. So what I recommend with all-wheel drive cars, if you can, is on maybe every other oil change, or every oil change, depending on how often you change the oil, rotate those tires. This way they'll wear evenly. And then when you go to put new tires on, do all 4 at once. Very, very important on all-wheel drive cars. I go to tire shops and stuff, and I talk to people at tire shops, and some of these people never even heard of this. And I show them this thing, and they say, what the heck is this? You know, because sometimes I have tire shops locally, and a lot of times if a tire is way out of whack, I don't even want the car to leave here, because we probably get 1 to 2 jobs in a month because of wrong tire size. And I don't want these cars to leave here until it has the right tires on. And sometimes these differentials, all these transfer cases, have blown apart, literally. The case is cracked, blown from the inside out, and the tire is way out of whack. Sometimes it's even the wrong size. So one time we went down to I have a tire shop not too far away, you know, it's not even a quarter mile away. So he said, well, just go over there and get a tire. I said, well, you just can't get a tire. You know, we got to measure it, make sure it's right. You know, so we took the tire down there, and I'm measuring this thing, and the guy's like, what is that? What are you doing? So I was explaining to him what I had to do. I think it was probably one of the, you know, it was one of the employees who I never heard of that. And some people have, some people haven't, but I'm telling you, very, very important with all-wheel drive cars. If you have to do tires, you do all 4. All right, on my car, I can't rotate the tires. I own a BMW X6, and the back rims are different than the front. So, you know, at a certain time, I just put 4 tires on the car. At a certain, you know, I don't have much mileage on my car. I have about 37,000 miles on it, and I did a set of tires probably at about 30,000 miles because the fronts were wearing down pretty good, and I just did all 4. I got the run flat, so that's not cheap stuff. So now I'm, you know, 7,000 miles ago, I put a set of tires on. So, very important. So, number 1, we got very little fluid in this thing is a factor. It leaks, and if you don't notice it, there's, you know, half a quart of fluid. Once it leaks out, it's done. Heat and tire size. I think those are the 4 contributing factors that contribute to this high failure rate item. All right, so here is again is my stagger gauge. So we're going to get a little closer with this. I'm going to get a little closer with this, and we'll just kind of go over the seals, and then we're going to flip it up. I'll probably put the shaft here. This side goes into the transmission, and I'll put it in, and we'll lift this cover off. And I'll show you what this thing looks like. So let me get a little closer with this, and we'll look at it on the outside, and then we'll open it up on the inside. But first, I want to show you on my program that I pay for, which is a Mitchell On Demand or Shopkey Pro, with this year, make, and model car, under fluid capacities, how much fluid this thing actually holds. All right, so I'm going to get over there by the computer and then back to the bench. So give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, so again, this is the side that goes into the transmission. And there is a compressed seal here to stop the transmission fluid from leaking out, and a front seal to stop the gear oil from coming out inside here. Okay. There's also a seal. The axle shaft goes through into the transmission, and there's a small seal on the other side. And if it's leaking transmission fluid, it's that small seal. If it's leaking gear oil, it's the other one, what we're going to go over. Okay, so this is going to hook up, this bolts on like that. This is going to hook up to the rear drive shaft, to give you the all-wheel drive. There's a seal in here. Honestly, I have never, as many as I've done of these, I haven't seen this seal leak yet. I mean, it's possible. I believe the seal is sold, but I have not seen this seal leak yet. Okay, up top here you have a vent, and you just want to make sure if this thing gets hot enough, it's very possible that fluid may come out the vent. The gear oil may come out the vent, and maybe sometimes run down and look like it's leaking from here. So just kind of check it out if you see a leak from around here, or maybe in between where the cases meet. Yeah, just kind of look and see if you can see a trail of maybe like clean where the fluid is coming down, to see where the leak is. All right, here is the check fill plug. Now this, I think there was a lot more crap on here than now. But, I mean, the thing's totally burnt up and stinks. Okay, so here is the right side. All right, you have this protective cover on here. You have the big seal that goes in here, and then you have a small seal that seals on the axle shaft to seal the transmission fluid, because, again, this is full inside here of transmission fluid. So if it is leaking transmission fluid, and I've seen it leak transmission fluid, and I've seen it leak gear oil, you have to buy the seal kit. Ford does sell the seal kit. You get a new protective cover, a new large seal, and a seal that goes on the inside. So if you have to change the inside one, you gotta at least knock this thing off to get that out. But it's sold in a kit. So I always do them all. And the seal, just look where it is. It's basically right in, kind of like in front here. And you'll see the smooth part on the axle. And then we take, and then you got to knock this thing off. This thing may break as you're taking it off. And if you're going to put this kit in, and you're going to do both seals, this plastic protector, the thing doesn't just really snap right in. It's shaped a little, it looks a little different now. What I do, and what I think they actually recommend you do, is this plastic piece I heat up with my heat gun. Get it, I know it's, you really can't touch it, but I kind of have it on a bushing driver. I heat the sucker up, I put it on there, and then I give it a smack and it pops in. All right, if you don't heat it, or something to that effect, you try to just put it in, taking it out of the package, it's probably not going to go in, or it's going to be extremely hard to go in. When I heat it up, and I think they may even recommend heating it, I'm not sure. It's been a while since I did one, but I did one, the last one I did was on a Ford, I think a Ford Taurus. I heated it up and boom, one shot, right in, no problem, leak fixed, after we put the seals in. Okay, so let me switch angles here. I'm gonna put this into the hole in the bench. We're gonna take this thing apart and I'll give you a shot of what is left of this power transfer unit. All right, so let me get set up for that. I'll be right back. Okay, so let's get the 4 bolts out and put back in. All right, let's see if we can. There are a couple of dowels on here, so let's just break it loose again. That's pretty much what's left of this. And this here is the gear oil. Look at that. It's like mud. And these, don't have a drain plug, and what you can really do is if you can get to the fill check plug, is just check the fluid on it. But unless you can get something to get the fluid out, I'm sure somebody watching this video probably had one of these done, because we do a lot of these. All right, here is the inside. So this is it, basically just gears and bearings, constantly turning. So how can you prevent this from going bad? You really gotta, it's very hard to, because, number one, this thing is surrounded by heat. But if you can get the fluid level checked in this thing, or get the old fluid out if you can, and have them pump in new gear oil. But again, this thing is surrounded by heat. It only holds a tiny, tiny bit of fluid. It's very hard. So that's why now they came out with a new one, which I have yet to see, which supposedly is being cooled. Again, I don't know how that is working out. But, tire size is very important. Also, the last, we have this one, and then we had actually another Lincoln that got towed from another shop, and this also was basically like this, and it started to happen after he did something with he put different tires on, or he did something with the tires and totally screwed it up. He actually had to put, I don't know if he went bigger or what he did, but he ended up having to go back to the original tires that were on it. That was also a Lincoln, I believe. So this is, if you have any pretty much Ford front wheel drive, Lincoln, a late model Taurus, which is now based on front wheel drive, maybe even the Explorers, because I know the late Explorers have front wheel drives in them. Ford Edges, Ford Escapes, you have one of these. So this is called a power transfer unit. Let me kind of just give you a close-up of this thing. And that's what happens to them. Some worse than others. Some stop even moving. We have to tow the car in. But, if you have an all-wheel drive car, at least you could, if you're getting an oil change or something, have them look to see if they see any leaks. But again, this thing, you know, it's hidden up there, a lot of heat around it, and it, you know, sometimes you can't prevent it from going bad. But another reason, again, is once this fluid starts to cake up, you know, and it only holds half a quart, there's not much you can do about it. But, you know, just make sure there's no leaks. Maybe they can pull the plug out, make sure it's full, if it's accessible. You know, when you pull a plug out, just like any standard shift or transmissions nowadays that don't have a dipstick, you should see the fluid run out when you take it out. Watch your tire size. You know, if you're going to do tires and you have an all-wheel drive car, you should do 4 instead of just doing 2 and then 2, because that can do some damage. And rotate them as you get oil changes. All right, so that's about it. Just a quick video on Ford's Power Transfer Unit, or PTU. I thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, and we will see you next one.